Okay, hello everyone. Really happy to be recording this video for you. Lots of things to cover in this video. So for those who are new to the channel, what I do is I usually share my GM prep for a campaign of the game Symbaroum that I have with my friends. And afterwards I do a recap video where I talk about how my prep was good or not. You know, was it useful? Were there any things missing? How can I prep my next session best? So the idea behind these videos is really to just share how I do it in the hopes that it might be useful to you. In this video today, I'll ask you a question. I will have some words on an upcoming video on adventure design, because I created a short, really fun adventure for Symbaroum called Playing with Goblins. Really nice one-shot type adventure. And I want to do a sequel to that adventure. And by the way, Playing with Goblins is available on DriveThruRPG if you're curious. And the next part, the sequel, will be much darker and maybe much more Symbaroum-y than the first part. So I'm going to start working on that, and I'm going to talk about that in a few moments. Then we'll go into the recap of session 38 of the campaign. You can watch my previous videos if you want the whole story. I think in the first or the second video I do like a recap of the campaign up to now, and then session by session you get the story of these characters that I GM for. I will zoom in on what worked and what worked less. And I will also give you my rulings because there was a chase through the deep snow in this session, and I'll just tell you how I handled it. So before we start, I have to show this here, very nice little beer called Glutenberg. Yes, I'm not celiac or anything, but I do have a sensitivity to gluten. So sometimes I prefer to drink this kind of beer. And this session IPA is actually the best of this line. So cheers to you. We're doing this really laid back. As I said in my last video, well, first I have to drink if I say cheers. So let's go. I hope you have something to drink too. So yeah, as I said in my previous video, I'm starting to work on a feature film as an editor right now. I've done 1 week, a big week of editing last week. Next week will be the same, and the one after that, and after that. So I have less time to do prep and or videos. So this video will be a bit more raw. I will not edit anything. I will just, because it was either I do it raw or I don't do it. So I decided, let's just do it. I'll throw it out like that, raw. So if I'm rambling, if there's, you know, little hiccups here and there, you have to excuse me. I'll try to be as efficient as I can. I have my little list here, so I should be not too bad. So the first thing that I wanted to ask you is this question. I want to ask you. I want to know where are you from? Like, I'm really curious, in what time zone, which country, which city are you playing Symbaroum right now? Are you actually in the campaign, or are you planning to, or are you just curious about the game? It would really help me first, so I can see that I'm not talking in the ether, in the void, that there's people at the other end. I want to learn more about you guys and gals. I really hope that there's a few girls, a few girl GMs. I would really like to have some input from girls. And yeah, just tell me what's going on your side. And depending on how many people are in time zones that are compatible with mine, I would like to maybe do some live taping sometimes, just to be able to interact with you in the chat. I think it would be really nice. Second thing, about adventure design. I have, I don't even remember in which notebook I wrote all those notes, but I really had a moment of inspiration around Christmas, and I wrote down like all the ideas that I have for the sequel to Playing with Goblins. And I want to do a video where I'll just share that with you Of course, it will be spoilery, so it's just for GMs. But the reason is that right now I'm working. I have all these other commitments, so I can't really sit down and write the actual adventure yet. But I have a lot of ideas. It's pretty fleshed out already. I'm sort of ready to write it, but I wanted to test those ideas with you. I would love to have some feedback from you all before I actually start writing. So I'll do that. So tell me in the comments if you would like, if you think it's a good idea, and if you would be willing to comment. I mean, to give me some feedback on that future video I will make. That would be really cool. So regarding the GM prep for session 38, I didn't do any. I was too busy. And as I said in my last video, I had put in like 2.5 hours of prep. My rule is always 1 hour for 4 hours of play. And I only prep session by session as much as I can. Of course, as I said in the last video, sometimes you're beginning a chapter, you need to set up a bit more groundwork. So yes, you can have one session of prep. I mean, a prep session that will last maybe, I don't know, 3 hours, 4 hours, because you're setting up a whole campaign arc. So that, of course, is longer. But usually you should be able to get a lot of mileage out of that 4 hours, or else it's wasted time. So I put in 2.5 hours for session 37, and now session 38, I put 0. I did not have any time. I just got back from work. I cooked some pasta. I set up, all my stuff in front of the computer while my friends were already online speaking to each other and waiting for me. I sort of had half an hour. I stepped in the door and I had half an hour to make food, set up my stuff, and be ready to play. So that was my prep. So I had a lot of things. I mean, the wheels are in motion for this part of the story. Now my group is trying to capture the Sellswords of the Sun, which are some fanatics of Prios that are after anybody that's not completely pure and devoted to Prios the Lawgiver. So they, everything was pretty much already set up. I had my little names list with little descriptors. I had created a new page of names because I went through quite a few names. Those name lists are super useful. It's like, we call them stock NPCs. Stock NPCs is just the random guy on the street. You really need to have these little descriptors and names handy to be able to ad-lib and improvise freely when the players go left and right. And in a city environment, this will happen. A city is dense, there's tons of people. You really need to have that by your side. It will make your life so much easier. And if you're crazy, you might also have like a list of taverns or shops or stuff, just names, just names. And it's crazy how a few words can just be the seed for a really quality improv. Like you say, I don't know, the 3 Turnips. That's the name of an inn or a tavern. So right there, you say, okay, it's a tavern. It's called the 3 Turnips. They walk in. What's happening in there? Well, there's this guy, an ex-farmer, old man, making alcohol out of turnips. There you go. So just because you wrote 3 words, the 3 Turnips, you have a whole tavern concept. So that's the power of really small bullet points of ideas. You'd better have tons of those and that inspire you ready on hand, then start to write descriptions and stuff like that. Especially for it's not set piece place, it's not important locations, it's the life of the city. It just needs variety. It needs just a few little fun things that the players can latch on and say, oh yeah, let's go see the turnip guy. The turnip tavern is going to be their favorite tavern for sure. And for you, it took you like 5 seconds to create that and write it. So that's efficient. That's what we love. We want that. Okay. I need to find out. I need to find a way for the clothing, because as I said in my last video, I hate describing clothing on people, but it makes things feel real when you have a short description of the NPC when the people meet at first. It has to stay super short, but it's just the vocabulary of clothing, and I just need a little tool for that. Anyways, so I've just told you that I did not prep. That brings my average really way down. I had 2 hours and a half for session 37 and 38. So that means it's 1 hour and 15 minutes for 2 sessions per session. So that's good. That's what I want. So let's see what happened in this session 38. Was it fun? Did my lack of prep annoy me or anything? And actually, I sometimes I was looking for descriptions of NPCs, and I had too many papers, and I'll come back to that. But let's jump in. Let's go see my Roll20 setup. So here we are. There's my girlfriend coming back from outside. Nastia? Oui? Je fais juste un petit enregistrement. Okay, ce sera pas long. Okay. Yeah, because we wanna watch something. We wanna have a little Netflix. Okay, actually, it's not on Netflix. It's a series. It's Marvelous Miss Maisel. You can check it out on Prime. Okay, so here's the Kingdom of Ambria. This is just my group, just to get things clear in everybody's mind. So one player plays Edogai, which is like a tinkerer, mage, also blacksmith, has a shop in Thistlehold. That's sort of their base. Here's Vild, the ogre mage. He is actually the novice of Edogai, and he became a ritualist master. So these two characters, this player has 2 characters because it's always either one or the other. And he wanted to have this Edogai character as like a static character in Thistlehold. So every time they go out on adventure, Edogai stays at Thistlehold. Boded Goda is the self-taught mystic goblin that thinks he's a priest of Prios. He was brought up by the Black Cloaks in Indalos in the convent school. Miresin is a barbarian from clan Eonai from the north, the far north. He's sort of an exile, and he's looking for his new clan, if you want. Mikariol is a young mage from Alberator. He studied the Grey Death with his master until his master's death, and his master sent him to Thistlehold under the protection of Master Vernum of the Academy. Master Vernum is still alive because my players succeeded so well in Mark of the Beast that that character that should have died in that adventure didn't. Lodome is a Templar girl. She is the daughter of a noble that was close to the family of Mikariol. They're both Valgardia. Their last names, their noble names is Valgardia. And she's a young Templar. She's she has a fiery spirit. She is tormented by strange nightmares, and she sometimes can't stop hitting people even when they're down, because she's quite the character. So that's the crew. Let's move to Thistlehold. So here we have a map of just a supplement from Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay that I used. I just took the map to have a map for the house, for the hideout of the Sellswords of the Sun. So session 38 started very early in the morning. Actually, in session 37, during the night, the Sellswords of the Sun had done some vandalism on the Witch and Familiar, and they and Miresin, that was sleeping there, captured one of them, and they brought him to the prison of Thistlehold, and there they interrogated him, like at dawn, and they learned that these Sellswords of the Sun have a hideout. Of course, I didn't want to use the hideout, the official hideout of the adventure. This whole mini quest is one of the parts of Wrath of the Warden, which is the first chapter of the big campaign, Throne of Thorns. And so I needed to sort of stretch this inquiry and this pursuit of the Sellswords a bit longer than what is supposed to be used in the campaign. So I didn't want them to find the actual hideout of the Black Cloak Dolani right away, because then things would go too fast. I wanted to create that build-up, remember? I wanted to have these different steps of the Sellswords doing some vandalism, spreading rumors, trying to rile up the mobs against my players. So I decided that they would have two hideouts. So there's the one house, which is this here, this little dot. That's the actual hideout as per the adventure, the official adventure. That is the house that is owned by a veteran of the war, Cargoyle Salamos, and that has been lent to Dolani because Dolani needs help. And so they will find later on. There was another house, this green dot here. Well, actually, just to make clear, the young sellsword that was imprisoned told them, we have a place where we meet, and it's a plague house. It's a house that had some sickness in it, and that all the windows and doors were placarded, and there's big white X's on the doors, so nobody can go in. And so in the previous session, they had scouted this whole area, the poor area of town, and they found that there were two of those houses, the green dot and the blue dot there. So what happens in that house? That house is basically a safe house that Dolani uses to meet his young recruits. Because I decided that just to put some layers, when you do some investigative type of adventure, you want to have the onion peel structure. You need first you peel off the skin first, and then one layer and another layer. You have to stack different layers so the characters can go ahead and discover this first layer, and then in this first layer there's some clues for the next layer, and etc. So they can go deeper down the rabbit hole. So I just added one layer by adding this house. And what I decided is that Dolani has his loyal, more mature associates, sort of his gang, if you want. And he's recruiting all these young, hot-headed youngsters that are very devout and that are easy to influence and to scare. And these youngsters, he brings them to this house. Actually, it's this house where they meet. So in the plague house, they get in secretly, they have their meetings there, they do their planning, and then they spread out, they go back to their homes, and everybody has something to do. Like the vandalism has been decided. It's like, you guys, you're going to go to the Witch Infirmary in 2 days. You guys, you're going to do this. You guys, you're going to torch Sarvola's mission on this day. So there's a diary of all these moves that they're going to do. It's already organized, and they did that by getting together in that house. So it's a safe house for the lesser members of this company. The actual hideout here, that the HQ of Dolani, the one that is described in the adventure, is used by Dolani as his home. He lives there with his close associates. So he will never reveal that to anyone, because he knows that these youngsters, if they get caught, they can just tell where he lives. He's not stupid. And that's exactly what happened. So this youngster told them where this house was. And when we start this session 38, my group wants to scout it out. So they decided, okay, we need to talk to Lessifar. They had this feast the night before, and they feel super comfortable to always go see the mayor for anything. And so, of course, they want to talk to him, and they want to have help, and they want to have the authorization to act and everything. So they decided to just first, right after dawn or very, very early, go to Night Home, talk with the guards, get an audience with Lessifor and tell him what's going on, that they found the house where these people meet and that they need to have some support from the watch to round them up and catch them. When they got to Nightholm, of course, Lessifor was gone. He was not available. He had other things to do. He was at the town seat or somewhere else. And so they just left a notice to the guards that they would like to meet him. The guard told them that a messenger would come to fetch them when he would be ready to meet them. They went back. They decided to split up. They said, okay, the barbarian Miresin and Beau will go just stake out the house. So because it's empty right now, but if some sellswords come, they want to have an eye on them and see who they are. And Wild, the ogre mage, and Micariol, the young Alberatorian mage, will go to the Ordo Magica Tower to study a ritual that they're trying to learn. And Lodome, the Templar, will stay with Edogai at the shop. Beau and Miresin are scouting out. So the one thing that I had already decided in my prep is that I wanted to have a big snowstorm start. So I started it just a bit early. So it started snowing like as they were staking out the house. Like fluffy, heavy snow, but still a lot of activity. This kind of neighborhood is filled with, kids playing everywhere, dogs, cats, chickens. It's really lively, very dense, lots of people, really hard to not be seen. So they were just walking around trying to look normal, and they spotted 3 guys talking in front of the house, being just lively and happy. And a 4th guy comes by. They have a big bag. I just made up all of that up on the fly. And they walked away towards number 5, the tavern of this place, of this area. So of course they suspected them. They said, okay, these are 4 young guys. They have the right profile. So they decided to keep an eye on them. They were starting to freeze in the snow. So Beau says to Miresin, get some other people to come, and so we can go indoors and get some warmth. I didn't give them any hindrances, mechanical hindrances yet, but I was just stressing the fact that, okay, you've been watching this house, you're walking around for 2 hours, you're starting to be hungry, it's cold, you're thirsty, all of that. So I would typically do that. I just do it narratively first. If they say, oh, I don't care, we keep on going, oh, no problem. Well, 1 hour later, I'll ask for them to have a strong roll to see if they have no effect. If it lasts too long, I'll just say, okay, you're just maybe not as vigilant as before because you're really hungry and you're sort of impatient, and you don't really need to put a big modifier on their rolls or have a big mechanical effect. Just the fact that you mention it to the players and that you ask them to roll strong, it sort of differentiates the characters that are really tough from the other ones, and it just reminds the players this is getting cold, and it's getting, you might catch a cold, something might come of this if you don't, if you act as if cold doesn't exist. So Miresin goes back to the shop. He gets Micariol. He comes back to the house to help Beau, so Beau can go get some heat. So basically they just did this and left Micariol all by himself, the mage, in the snow, in the small those little streets here are like 4 meters wide, 3 meters. It's really, really narrow. So he was hiding there, and while he's alone, sees 4 guys come in. They take off the planks on the door to the courtyard. They go in. They close everything. The last one hops over the wall with the help of a cord, of a rope. Just one last little thing, a little retcon. When Miresin went back to the shop to fetch help, Beau went to number 5. He went in the tavern, and there he met with, he was just sort of mixing up in the crowd. So I had to describe a bit of this crowd, and I made it a bit like we say la cour des miracles in French. It's like, you know, the part of town that is dominated by more like not organized crime, but almost, you know. So it's really like whores and all sorts of poor people, but also drunkards, but also people selling weird drugs, also, you know, that kind of crowd, but also just treasure hunters that made a bit of cash during the summer, and they're just, you know, slumming it till the summer for the whole winter. So they're just really happy to have a bit of coin, and they come and they drink and they whore, and all of that stuff. So that was the ambience that I described. The 4 guys that they saw talking in front of the house were there. So he tried to spy on them. So I had to spin a little tale again. So I decided that one of them just had his ring of citizenship of Thistlehold, and all the others were sort of celebrating this event with him. And he sort of spied on them. He wanted to listen. We did all this kind of investigation, espionage kind of stuff. But these guys, they were just normal guys. But that's the fun part. They don't know. And so he realized after a while that it might not be so urgent. So he went back to his post. Miresin came back with Mikariol, the young Alberator mage. And he decided to, he told Mikariol, there's the house, hide here. We're going to get heat and food and we'll come back. So Mikariol stayed all by himself. And while he was waiting, 4 guys come in. They, a few vigilant, discreet stuff rolls here with big bonuses for him because the snow was still falling really heavily and it was getting darker. So they didn't see him. They jumped over the fence, giving into the courtyard, went into the house. While they were into the house, Miresin came back. They talked a bit. Miresin went back and they decided to bring the whole crew around the house. So everybody came back except for Edogai. Edogai went to Night Home to talk to Lassifar. So that was a little scene with Lassifar. He actually succeeded in meeting him. Lassifar came back from his work. I had him with a runny nose because I sort of wanted to foreshadow the sickness he's going to have during the start of Wrath of the Warden. But anyways, they talked, and Lassifar gave Edogai a written letter of support. But the main action was around the house. So they were hiding in the small street there, and Wild came up to the fence and just threw the goblin bow inside the courtyard. So I got this little map here that's blacked out for the players, of course. So they were at this corner here. Bow fell into the courtyard, and by that time it was nighttime. And I really stressed the fact that there is no light apart from your lantern or whatever. So when he fell into the courtyard, there was absolutely no light. Just the reddish glow from the beacon was giving some light to the top of the house if he looked up, but in the courtyard it was completely dark. So I had him find his way on all fours all the way to the door. I did a roll for that. He could have missed his roll and ended up over here. It could have become pretty funny. He listened to the door. He made a super success. He heard a guy come in, grab some stuff because this is the kitchen, and leave. And then he went on the other side here. He went to the window, and there he listened in, and the Sellswords were talking together. And I had decided that there were 6 by now because 2 more came before the crew got there. So there were 6 in there, 5 young boys plus 1 older man. That is one of the loyal associates of Dolani. He was basically, I described all of these 5 kids because he looked in a little crack in the cupboard, in the shutters. And I could do that because I had my list of names and my little description. So I gave a quick description of every young guy and this gray-haired man. And he told them basically, we don't know if your friend has spoken about you yet. If the guard goes to your father's and mother's place, then we'll know he spoke. So right now, you just need to lay low in this safe house. We'll bring you some food every day, but you're not moving out from here. You stay inside, you don't move. And he said, I'll sleep with you tonight, and tomorrow morning I'll leave, and we'll just come by to give you some food and stuff every 2 days. Once they heard that, well, actually, once Beau heard that, he decided to leave. And they reconvened as a group, and they decided, okay, we know this guy's leaving tomorrow morning. We'll pick him up in the morning. So they all left and went to sleep in their homes. Miresin and Beau went to the Witch and Familiar. The rest of the crew, actually everybody went home. So Michael is at the academy, Lodome at the temple, and Wild and Edogai at the shop. In the morning, the two that had the mission to go get the guy, or at least tail him, that was the mission, to be there in the morning, tail the man, and see where he goes, where he leads us. So they left from the Witch and Familiar super early. I had them roll some strong rolls to see if they would wake up in time, because IRC also made a strong roll for the men. But you know, there's no timers, there's nothing to wake you up, and I decided that during the whole night, snow was falling. It was the snowstorm continuing. So in the morning, it was super dark, snow still falling, no sound, completely, you know what happens when there's tons of snow, it gets really, really silent. And so they, Miresin succeeded his strong roll, they got up early, they got to the house, and 15 minutes later, the man jumped over the wall and left. And there is where we did a little, like a shadowing, espionage, following kind of scene. So Miresin basically followed the guy. Actually, Beau followed the guy on this side, and Miresin was over here and went in front of the house, went on the other side to follow him. And they were walking behind the guy, like 100 feet behind him. And with the snow, at 100 feet, I told them the visibility is really, really low already. You can just see a silhouette. But there was nobody in the streets, so they didn't want to get close because it would be obvious that they're following him. So we did a few, discreet rolls there. And when Miresin just went by the house to sort of cut him off, I just thought, is like the young guys inside, there is a chance that one of the guys is at the window and he sees Miresin go by. And Miresin is sort of jogging along. And, he's a barbarian with tattoos really early in the morning in a snowstorm. That's sort of a weird coincidence. And I decided it could happen, but it's really not, probably they're just still sleeping or something. And so I gave just a 1 in 20 chance. Rolled the d20 behind my screen, got a 1. That's cool. Why do you want to randomize stuff like that sometimes? It's because first, it's fun for the GM to not know in advance what will happen. Second, it allows this kind of thing where the players will go, yeah, of course they saw us, of course they're following us, and sometimes it feels rigged by the GM. So by using chance, you can just say to the players, you had a 1 chance in 12, I rolled a 1. And it just, that becomes like really fate. It's fate acting on the game. It's not the GM deciding stuff. So I was really happy with that. I was like, oh yeah, cool. And so two young guys came out of the house in a hurry and started following them from behind. So the hunters were hunted. So with all these, basically I asked them for always discreet and vigilant. So I'd ask them again to see if the man sees them, but also if they see the ones behind them. And they did. And so the man went along here, turned left on the long way around because he was going to the hideout, the HQ. But here he still didn't know that he was being pursued. And Miresin and Beau, when they saw they were being pursued, they sort of hurried up here and entered this little alley here to just hide and watch the two other guys that were coming in behind. So the two other guys came behind, did not see them when they went by the street. The snow was making hiding really easy. And they yelled to the old man. They yelled, Edragar! Edragar! And so they gathered, the three of them, here. And they told him, somebody's following you and blah, blah, blah. And so Edragar thought, okay, we need to lose these guys. So they started walking on the long way around towards the Toad Square. Miresin and Beau started tailing them real fast. They kept their distance. They didn't want to be seen. And once the group of sellswords entered the square, they ran to the limit here. And Miresin just went around from here, I think. And they got to the Toad Square, and it was heavily snowing. They couldn't really see them. They walked into the square to try to see through the snow. They finally saw them entering this big tavern here, this big inn, and they were about to enter. The guys saw Miresin. Miresin just started peeing on the statue to fake that he's not following them really. And so the guys turned around here, went here, and at this point it was like a race. So we had some strong rolls. That's the thing that I wanted to talk about this race in the snow, is that because normally with the chase rules in Symbaroum you use quick. It's quick versus quick, and you need to succeed 3 times to catch up to somebody. Well, the first one that succeeds 3 times either flees or catches up. So I used strong in this instance because there was a thick layer of snow. So I don't know if you've already ran in snow, but it's really hard. So I used strong, and they ran, and they couldn't shake him off. And so they ran, and at this point here, they stopped and turned around. And so Miresin and Beau came here and were face to face with the old man. And he had drawn a sword and a dagger. And he said, okay, who are you guys? You want to play? Something like that. What he was hoping is to draw them into him, and then the other two would come from behind and flank them. But that didn't happen because Miresin and Beau, they weren't there to fight. They just started running. They started fleeing this way. The man ran after them, yelling stuff. And he threw a dagger at Miresin, got him in the armor, but he did a super armor roll and wasn't wounded. But he threw a couple of really good insults. He told them to run away like the rabbits you are, or something like that. And my player almost stopped running and went for him. It was really fun. I really taunted him in real life, and he almost decided to fight, but he didn't. So he kept running, and they didn't pursue. They went back to the hideout, and they were happy. So they kept running. They went all the way to the shop. We're still pretty early in the morning. Nobody's in the street. They get into the shop, and there's big yellow paint blobs and stuff written on the shop. It's written sorcerers. There's like a silhouette of a big ogre and a smaller man with the son of Prios with the flames, and they're sort of on a pyre burning. So that was daubed on the shop. So that was another move of intimidation. That was done by another team because the sellswords, as I said before, they split their actions between them. So the ones that did this aren't the same that the ones that are in the house. So that was the cliffhanger of the end of the session. They weren't really happy because they got caught, they got seen, and they wanted to follow this man and find the rest of the group and learn more. And they got seen, so that was not good. But at least they learned the man's name, Edragar. So they were happy about that. So now it's the group is pretty they're into it. They're completely into it. They really want to get these guys, and I think that with this beginning, like the escalation of the rumors and of the intimidation by the sellswords is going to start to make them a bit more angry and stressed, and so we're getting into drama territory. The sellswords at the beginning were a bit of a comic relief. Now it's becoming a bit less of a comic relief. I wanted to say that during this session there was also a scene between Edogai and Lodome when they were waiting before at the shop, and that was PC to PC scene. So I like to remind my players that you can have PC to PC scenes where you're really doing a character development scene where you want to address something with another character and you want to role play it out in character, and that's really interesting. It's really fun. Gives a little break to the GM, and it's really fun to let these characters express themselves and show a bit of their color, of their personality in that kind of scene. So Edogai decided to talk to Lodome about this fit of anger, because when they were in the forest, like a few sessions ago, when they fought the bandits, the Odav bandits, the chief of the bandits was disarmed and heavily wounded on the ground, and he had surrendered. And Lodome ran her sword through his throat because she has the bloodlust burden. So he wanted to ask her about that, to say, okay, so you did that. Wild was very traumatized by that. What's going on? And she was not receptive at all, and she just shut down this discussion. And he said, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't want to to vex you. So it's just again a little seed that's in the floor, in the ground, that will grow into something later on. So that's really fun. I think it's cool to just give the option to the players all the time. Especially when it's scenes where they're making a fire, having food, or whatever, going to the tavern. You could say, okay. You're all sitting. You do a little role play with the tavern keep. He brings them some beers and some food or whatever, and then you can tell the players, okay, well, would you like to? Does your character want to say something specific to one of the other characters or to the group? Do you want a one-on-one scene, like one person goes to the loo, you follow not in the loo, but you just take her, talk to her in the courtyard or in front of the, take her apart and do a one-on-one scene. That can be possible too. So you just hand the option to the players, and one of them, or at least, will say, oh yeah, I want to do something. And that's it's just a nice change of pace from the actual intrigue plot stuff. And it gives more depth to the characters. It makes the story much more lived in. And the last thing, well, actually, it's pretty much it for this video. So let's say that, first of all, I was thinking at the end of the session, did I stretch this part of the story too long? Like, we spent a whole session staking out a house, seeing some guys come in, come back, and the next day follow them again. But actually there was so much going on. There's many little scenes, social scenes, because I didn't tell you everything, but a few other things happened. So there are a bit more social scenes and stuff. And there was a few moments where there was some tension and some action, the chance of being discovered, trying to spy, all those things. It's not combat, but it involves some rolls, chances of failure, there's some stress, some drama. And there was this big snow falling on the city that made it like a new environment. We're still in Thistlehold, but it's not the same Thistlehold. Like, there's 1.5 feet of snow everywhere. So yeah, they were happy. They said, no, we're actually, I was thinking we were going too slow, and they said, no, it's going really fast. So okay, cool. Yeah, and the only thing is really in these environments is the number of NPCs that you have to juggle with. And I have, because I write my NPCs on a session per session basis, they're spread out in my notes. So I've decided to make a compiled document of all my NPCs and my stat blocks in like an Excel file kind of thing, so I can really find them super quick when I'm jamming, because I had a few moments where I was looking for the description of this or that. So yeah, as the adventure is moving on, there's more and more characters that are in play, so it gets more complicated. So there you go. So happy to have done another video with you guys. Hope that you have some great gaming during these cold months, at least for the northern hemisphere, and see you in the next one. Cheers.